In more than 100 cities across Michigan, cameras are watching you drive. They snap a photo of your license plate every time you pass by, logging where you go, when you go there, and storing it all in a searchable database. Law enforcement says these automated license plate readers help solve crimes and find missing people. But privacy advocates and everyday Michiganders are pushing back hard. They say it amounts to mass surveillance without consent. And with the Trump administration ramping up deportations nationwide, the stakes just got a whole lot higher. This is So What Michigan, where we expose the surveillance tech that's tracking you without your knowledge and show you what can happen when that data ends up in the wrong hands. Here's the deal. Most of these cameras are run by Flock Safety, a company out of Atlanta. They're mounted on street poles and highway overpasses across Michigan. And every time a car drives past, they snap a photo, log the time, and record the license plate. Police can cross-check those plates against hot lists of stolen vehicles, missing people, or suspected criminals. And while that might sound helpful, it gets a whole lot creepier. Because these cameras don't just track criminals. They track everyone. Every single driver who passes by gets logged into the system, and that data doesn't just sit on a local server. It can be shared with other law enforcement agencies across the state, or even across the country. And with President Donald Trump's ICE agents ramping up deportations, local communities are starting to ask some really uncomfortable questions about who gets access to this data. Flock, for its part, says it doesn't share data directly with ICE. But last year, 404 Media analyzed system lookup data and found local and state police across the country have been running searches on behalf of federal agents. So even if Flock isn't handing data directly to ICE, local cops can still look up license plates for them. And once that data is shared, there are very few safeguards on how it gets used. That's why groups like Get the Flock out of Kalamazoo are demanding cities rip out these cameras entirely. They argue this tech doesn't make communities safer, it just builds a massive surveillance network that can be weaponized against immigrants, protesters, or anyone else the government decides to target. Some Michigan cities are starting to listen. Bay City and Ferndale both backed out of their contracts with Flock in recent months after major public backlash. In Detroit, cops say they aren't sharing data with ICE, but city council members aren't convinced. They've demanded a full report on how the city's 500-plus cameras are actually being used. Other communities are doubling down. In Waterford Township, police just added more Flock cameras and drones despite protests from residents. The police chief there insists they're using the tech responsibly and not spying on residents. But privacy advocates are still raising red flags. According to the ACLU, these systems can map out your entire life, where you work, where you worship, where you protest, just by tracking every time your license plate crosses a camera. And with ICE activity increasing in many communities across the country, some advocates say the risk of misuse feels higher than ever. And here's the kicker. Michigan has no statewide laws regulating how these cameras are used. That means every city gets to make its own rules about data sharing, retention, and oversight. Some cities keep the data for 30 days, others keep it longer. Some share it statewide, others share it nationally. According to reports from Bridge, Michigan, it's a complete free-for-all. At least 16 states have passed laws to regulate license plate readers and protect privacy. But Michigan? We've done nothing, and that's leaving Michiganders directly exposed to exactly the kind of surveillance creep that civil rights groups have been warning us about for years. So what? Well, these cameras are already here. They're tracking cars across Michigan every day, and the rules for how that data gets used or shared depend almost entirely on where you live. If you didn't know you were being surveilled, you do now. And if the idea of a private tech company building a searchable database of everywhere you drive pisses you off, good. You're not alone. Communities across Michigan are fighting back. Some are winning, but most Michiganders still don't even know that these cameras exist. Hit follow. I'll keep tracking where these cameras are spreading, where pushback is growing, and whether Michigan lawmakers putting the guardrails in place before things get out of control.